What is the most out-of-touch thing an older person has told you? My grandmother didn't like female cats and dogs because they don't have good morals and want sex all the time unamused. My dad visited me in the restaurant I was working in at the moment during peak hours and said, "Just tell your boss you're taking your break now and sit with me." Yeah, that's not how it works. From a parent, when we die, you can just fly over here and move in for 6 months while you figure out what to do with all of our stuff. Sure. And what income will I have after I need to quit my job to do this? This was in 1992. I had just turned 11. My parents always took my sister and me to the polling place with them when they'd vote in elections. And that's what we were doing that morning. My dad had stopped to vote on the way to drop my sister and me off at school. As we're leaving the polling place, for some reason, I can't remember the details on how this happened, my dad ends up getting into a conversation with an older man near the exit. Somehow it came up that he had brought us to the polls so that we would know about voting when we were old enough, and was about to drop us off at school. This old man said, "But they're both girls. They don't need to vote. And shouldn't that one be done with school now?" Quote, he meant me. My dad was basically like, "Excuse me, what?" And this dude informed him that girls only went to school until the 6th grade. Dad handled it fine. He was just like, "None of that has been the case for a long time. I've gotta take my daughters to school now. Have a nice day," and sort of ushered us out. Out of all the out-of-touch things said to me by older people over the years, mostly just the usual, walk in, hand them your resume, and don't walk out until the manager gives you a job, kind of thing. But nothing compared to the man in the polling place who thought I should be done in school and that it was frivolous to teach me about voting due to my sex. I remember that old man every time I vote, and I've never missed an election. That he raised me and my siblings so he doesn't see why it's so difficult for us. He was an every other weekend dad for me, and my siblings have lived in a different state from him since elementary school unamused. My mother said to me just a few days ago that a down payment for a house isn't that hard to save up for. I told her I barely have $5,000 saved up so far. She insisted that that is more than enough. I had to stress that 20% down has been the norm in our area since the 2008 crash. She hasn't bought property since the 90s. Young people have no pride left. Why do they think it's okay to still live with their parents at 20? Quote, the average age to move out of a parent's home in the UK is 35. Because there's a rental crisis and a housing crisis, especially in non-English countries, partially because the retired English keep buying second homes in Wales, Scotland and NI. Wages have barely increased, but rent and mortgages have increased extreme amounts, and this is because of their generation. Why older people don't understand this concept is beyond me. A woman told me, "I always see you reading books. You'll never get a man if you're too smart. They don't like that sort of thing." That the King James Bible is the only true and authentic Bible, and further stated that Hebrew and Greek were a dead language. As a theologian, I had to remind him that both languages are still used today. Also had to try and tell him how the King James has only been around since 1611. And how other much more ancient documents exist. Also had to inform him how we only have a canon of the Bible anyways because of the Catholic Church. And see. My grandma tells me to gain weight so that my hips can better support childbirth. Like every time she sees me I hear this, including when I was fighting cervical cancer. My only purpose in her eyes is to make babies, I guess. My great-grandmother told me how to give myself a knitting needle abortion. She thought that was important information for a 7-year-old to know. Well, when being gay was invented in the 60s. Right after I divorced and was struggling to put life together, I was advised to get myself a sugar daddy. Sure. My retired parents still say unless you go to college and get a bachelor's degree you'll end up digging ditches. I never went to college and make more than both of them did. They'll die on that hill. Just walk in and hand them a resume, they will hire you on the spot. My grandpa spent a good 15 minutes on Christmas Day having a rant about female commentators in sport. About how they just don't shut up, as though it's not literally their job to talk about football. Or something. I was told by my own mom, who's 61, that I shouldn't tell anyone that I have anything wrong with me. Because if they found out I had mental problems, they'd lock me up and never let me out. My job is talking to Medicare members all day every day. I could tell you a lot of things. But generally, I get at least 4 calls a week from people who legitimately think that Medicare should and does pay for housekeeping. So many of these people think that once you turn 65 you never have to pay for any medical expenses. No copays, free transportation, etc. It's really bad around open enrollment because of all the ads talking about the grocery utility card. The ads make it seem like everyone gets it. But really you have to be like destitute broke ASF to qualify for that. My grandma was shocked and couldn't understand why I couldn't just take as many days off work as I wanted to come to my grandpa's funeral. Just go there and ask for a job. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.